Like, you know what I'm saying?
They kept it a buck with you and held you accountable, man, for sure.
Yeah, held me accountable. And it was tough, man. There was a lot of transition with that, like just the style of coaching, the changing up my entire technique that I have. You know, I played a certain way my whole life, and I just came off a year I had 11 interceptions. And they're like, nah, like, yeah, you did, but you did this all wrong. Like, you know what I'm saying? And they changed up everything, made me I look much smoother, better, and quicker, and out my breaks, everything on film. But we were balling. We only lost one game all year, but even after every game, you felt like we lost because it was always something you felt like you could have done better. The standards were so high, and just the way you practice, everything, and it was just like, God damn. So it was exhausting, but it was cool to win that championship and kind of understand the level of preparation you kind of have, the level of discipline you got to have, and the level of buy-in to be able to win the championship.
Hey, was that a sense of was it like a business thing, or it was more so like business mixed with like just something else? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean 2010 was a hell of a year, and then going into that 2011 year, I was thinking I'm about to, I'm going to start at the X, and Tanner's going to be at the Z. That's the way we finish the year. That's the way we start the year. Then we ended up drafting 3 receivers. Signed another one, and then tried to trade for a fifth. Stokely didn't go.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, cool, that's fine. I'm gonna be at X, Santana's at the Z, and then we started training camp like that, and then like Santana went to the 1, and then Jabbar was at the 2, and then I was at the 3. I was like, all right, vet game, okay, whatever. But then just, I don't know, the way that I felt like I was only running deep routes, and which is
sir.
fine. But
yes,
when everybody knows
sir.
that's what you do,
and go ahead and mute that thing.
You're like a plunger. You're just flushing it out.
Turn this thing down. Boom. Let's go ahead and get into it, man. Let's get into it. Brian, change this. Who we got? Remove. There we go. Oh, it didn't work. Add to stream. Try this again. There we go. Woo! Welcome back to another episode of the Trap or Die podcast. This is the Trap or Die. It's the recap provided to you by 214 Media. I am your host, Mual. AJ Andre is checking in tonight. Fellas, how are y'all doing? How's your Sunday? We're not going to, sit here and worry about how you're doing after a loss. We've experienced 10 of them this year. But how y'all Sunday doing, man? How was y'all New Year's, matter of fact? That's the most important question.
Shit, bro, New Year's chill, you know what I'm saying? I don't do too much, man. I'm a low-key dude. So I was in the house, we threw a little something in the house, just a little get-together. And, as far as this Sunday goes, you know what I'm saying? Now we just worried about draft picks right now. We ain't caring about losses. I think we can eventually get to 7 or 8 after this week. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah. AJ, how you feeling, man? You healthy? Everything good?
Yeah, man. Just brought the niggas in the crib, watching these football games, just trying to enjoy the first Sunday of the new year.
You ain't had no more mishaps, did you? Because it didn't look like you was understanding the rules quite entirely on Twitter.
Man, I was understanding it. My girl, she just be trying to cheat. So,
and I ain't gonna say nothing, because when you said something about 2 skips or something like that, the other person, it don't matter. If you got 2 skips and it's 2 people playing, you win.
Right. That was my point. She went on Twitter with it, and all her little people was telling her the same thing, but she didn't want to hear it. You know how women get.
They ain't gonna tell you wrong. I mean, you right. So it is what it is. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into it, man. Get through the numbers right quick. Washington falls to the Philadelphia Eagles, get swept 20-16. Jalen Hurts on the Eagles side goes 17-26, 214 yards. The Philadelphia Eagles run 18 with Boston Scott. I think that's his name, Boston. I'm going for 14 carries, 47 yards. Hurts 7 for 44. And Howard has 11 carries as well. Leading receiver on the Eagles is Dallas Goedert, 6 for 71. And then behind him, Devontae Smith, 3 for 54. On the leading tackler, TJ Edwards, 13 total. And then on Washington side, you have Taylor Heineke going 27 for 36, 247 yards. No turnovers up until the last drive, the last play. Back foot Shawty strikes again. 1 interception for Taylor Heineke. The game-sealing interception. 3 sacks for 29 yards. Jared Patterson is the leading rusher on the day. Had himself a good. I guess this is his formal starting gig of the season. So 12 carries, 57 yards. Washington ends up rushing for 94 yards on the day. The leading receiver for the Washington football team is Terry McLaurin. 7 catches for 61 yards. Free Cam Sims. Fella comes through, 4 catches, 48 yards. And Patterson, if I say carries percent, I meant catches. But four receptions, 48 yards, and same thing for Patterson, five receptions, 41 yards. Leading tacklers, Cam Curl and Cole Holcomb for Washington. Some key metrics that stood out. It's kind of crazy how Washington ends up losing the game, holding the Eagles for 4 for 12 on third down. But the most important one was the 3 for 4 on fourth down, as Philadelphia scores their only 2 touchdowns of the day on 4th and goal. And then they dominate the time of possession, 32 minutes to 27. Well, not dominate. I sliced it. 32 minutes to 27 for the Philadelphia Eagles. All right. There we are. Those are all the numbers that we have. As always, we get our takeaways, our immediate takeaways. Let me check in with the chat right quick. I just seen some comments. Ralph says he sees it like this, and I'm going to hand it to Dre first after this. But Ralph said that, yes, other teams have injuries too, but our injuries by far had a way bigger impact than a lot of other teams. The offensive play calling was impacted, so was defensive scheme and all. Stressful season once again. And then Greers was going on. Jared said he trade Heineke for some Frito-Lay chips at this point. All right, there we are. Fellas, ladies. If y'all want to call in, I'm about to put the link in shortly. Dre, take it away with your overall thoughts of the game, and we can maneuver from there.
Yeah, I think we're just seeing it now. This team is just maxed out talent-wise. I mean, it's just not a lot of talent across the board. I did think that one bright spot was Jared Patterson today. I didn't think you missed Antonio Gibson too much on the offensive side of the ball. Patterson is a natural runner. I mean, you saw that in college. I mean, the guy broke a record in college with how many yards he ran in the game and how many touchdowns. So that was one bright spot on offense. But overall, it just tapped out. Like you said, Curtis Samuel was just a MIA all season, and he was supposed to be a big acquisition on offense to help the offense. Quarterback Taylor Heineke is as limited as they come. I mean, he can give you a pretty decent run at times during the season, but he'll never give you enough overall to take you over the top. I mean, he needs so much more around him, which means he's not your franchise quarterback. I mean, you got that answer pretty early on. He's a career backup guy, I think, in this league, but he's a guy that can come in and probably hold it down for a game or two, but not a 17-game starter. So, I mean, that's just what you're seeing offensively. Defensively, it's just been a disappointment all season. I mean, we thought that's where the talent lied at on this team is the overall strength, and all season long, like I said, they may have had 3 or 4 good games all year, but other than that, they've been pretty much dominated, and you just don't have enough talent to overcome that being your strength of the team this year. So they have to really look in the mirror after this season is over to see which direction they want to go in. Obviously, you want to upgrade a quarterback this offseason, but other than that, you still have a lot of questions on this team right now.
AJ?
Yeah, man. I actually got disconnected from the show real quick because I clicked on the video where I seen Jalen Hurts walk into the locker room, and there were some Philly fans leaning over the rails trying to like give him a dap, and the rails fell and the fans fell, almost hitting him. So the whole rail.
Oh, you're serious? Oh Lord Jesus! I gotta look that up. Hold on, bro.
So yeah, I mean, overall with the game, man, it went exactly how I thought it would, especially them just playing this team a couple weeks ago. You didn't really see too much change from that. They got on an early roll, you know. They had momentum, but once again, they never took advantage of the momentum that they had. They settled for a field goal, whereas Philadelphia was aggressive every time they had the ball. 4th down, they were still trying to score touchdowns instead of field goals. This team just lackadaisically acts as if like we can play comfortably. When it comes to the defense, they didn't apply any pressure to Jalen Hurts. They continue to stay with the same game plan the entire game. D-line wasn't getting much of a push. Just a real stifling approach overall. Taylor Heineke, he's going to be the bum that he is. And it is what it is. Just glad, hoping next week is the last time I ever have to see this dude play for the team that I root for. And Cam Sims, man, you got a big body wide receiver and you don't take advantage of it. It's asinine to me. And then you just keep throwing screen passes. Like, I think I've seen at least like 8 screen passes or play calls that were drawn up today by Scott Turner. And it's like, that your guy's taking 3-step dropbacks and throwing the ball if you're on defense. That's why you get so many batted balls, because there's no mix-up of the play calls. There's no integration of getting your playmakers the ball. Terry McLaurin isn't a focus. You're not even threatening downfield. Like, I don't think I've seen any deep ball really thrown downfield the entire game. I'm just ready for the season to be over. I don't even know if I'm necessarily looking forward to talking about college quarterbacks, because I feel like they suck as well. But, it just today was just another sign of this coaching staff and just how they typically don't really make adjustments on the fly. And there is a lot of holes on this team in general besides just quarterback.
So so obviously I try to keep this in, and I've forgotten randomly over the weeks, but the storyline following today's game, for everybody in the chat, Ralph says linebacker is a big question, but what are your storyline heading into the following week? Obviously meaning week 18 now for the New York Giants matchup in the Meadowlands. I don't have a well thought out storyline, but the biggest thing that you can really take away from this game and this week is I feel like there's, and this is based on our previous conversation with Drake, with you all, and obviously Tay and Todd, and understanding the conversation revolving around how they respond this week versus like if last week was an indictment on the team. This isn't a moral victory. Y'all know me better than that. But it's the notion that they tried. When you get beat down the way you did, you can either pack it up or you can, show some pride. And I'm not sitting here saying that they did their best, because they should have won this game. It's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. However, a team that was clearly limited on the defensive front, but then you have so many things go wrong in terms of the play call timing. Sometimes also even having just drives where you just can't get off the field in crucial situations for the defense. It hurts. And for me, to be honest with you, AJ, I think that early on you saw the effort getting Terry McLaurin the ball, and throughout they tried to get him the ball, and they were successful short to intermediate. They didn't do anything downfield this week with Terry. They did one time and it was incomplete. But you didn't see too much for Terry down the field, but they worked different levels of the field with Terry and Cam Sims. Obviously, John Bates was a huge target for them guys, as well as Jared Patterson at the line of scrimmage as well. They tried. I just think that one of the things that gets in the way, and this is where it comes to Scott Turner, is actually the screens, but also the lack of execution in terms of the screens, because all year long you kind of seen that that's not their forte. You can't keep calling screens knowing that your team can't really execute them that well. Another thing that kind of hurt Washington, where they had momentum still going for them. What's going on, Amani? All right, that's a good point. 0 points in the second half. But one of the things that stood out is clock management. The second quarter with 2 minutes left. Another thing that kind of, you strip away the time that you can have to even score a touchdown. And for them to really have a minute on the clock with 2 timeouts left ahead of the sticks, and you milk 30 seconds off of one first down conversion that you get on third down, kind of just indicates either you're unsure or lacking confidence in your quarterback and your offense, or you don't even know if you want to score points or just take it to the half. And I think they kind of got in their way so many different times this game. Scott Turner and Ron Rivera on that side of the ball defensively. When you lack Montez Sweat and Chase Young, you're going to have these issues that they had. The defensive tackles were getting double teamed consistently throughout the game. That's Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and Tim Settle has seen a couple of double teams as well. But I think that when you have those options and your best interior line or your best defensive linemen of the day are getting double teamed, you need those younger guys to come through. And when they're matched up one-on-ones on the tackles, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a guy, Jalen Hurts, who has all day to throw. And if you're in man coverage and you can't get pressure on the quarterback that's as mobile as him, he's going to eat you alive. And he did just that again this week.
Yeah, I mean, it was just frustrating that no adjustments were made on both sides of the ball. I mean, you would think defensively you would try to apply pressure more this go around, because even the last time you did play Philly, when you started applying the pressure, Hurts was getting out the ball quicker. You know, it was a lot of mistakes happening when you did blitz. And this time, they just were sitting back and only rushing forward, and Philly's offensive line literally had them boys looking like walls. Like, they weren't moving at all. Like, they were just right there. Like, so, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. You really couldn't tell that Washington even had a chance to still be in playoff contention watching this game. I didn't really see too much fight or urgency in the play calling or even on the field in general on how, you know, people were playing.
Yeah, and for me, I guess, like I said, defensively, it's been the same story all season, and this is where I'm kind of turning sour on Jack Del Rio, because you just wonder if the game has passed him by on that side of the ball, because it's not the same case when you look at the offense where you say, okay, they're limited talent-wise. Defensively, just like I said, we've been talking about it every week. This is where your talent is supposed to be. You know, this is where you're supposed to have one of the most feared defensive lines in football. I mean, even the secondary, I don't think the secondary can be viewed as a bad secondary when you got guys like Kendall Fuller, William Jackson, Cam Curl, Landon Collins, and Bobby McKinney. All of those guys they have an established rep in this league. But obviously your linebackers are weak, but still, I just don't think that's any excuse for how this defense performed this season. They really underperformed this season under Jack Del Rio, and that's an indictment on him. I mean, obviously, you know, the execution comes into play, and you have to look into that. But he's the coach, and he's the guy that, you know, has this big-time reputation as a high-end defensive coordinator, and you just can't stop teams on a weekly basis. And as AJ said, he's not adjusting in games. He's rushing for a lot, and he's just relying mostly on his defensive line. He's not helping them out. And also, you haven't really seen any guys really elevate under him. I mean, Cole Holcomb, I think he's been solid all season at the linebacker position, but no one else has really stood out and made a name for themselves, you know, to have it. I mean, a guy that, you know, before the season, you would say, this is who I want to see elevate. John Allen, he's pretty much been the same player. You know, Deron Payne, all those guys have been the same player, but no one really elevated on that defense. And you have to look back at the coaching staff, and not just Jack Del Rio. You got guys like Sam Mills on the defensive lines coach, who I think they had issues with for the past couple of years. So this is something they're going to have to look at going into the offseason. But offensively, it's still so hard to judge Scott Turner as an offensive coordinator. I know situationally we can look at some things and say, okay, you wish you would call, you know, something different here and there. But Taylor Heineke's so limited, you can't really call a downfield passing game. Screen passes probably are the strength of this offense, because Terry is really the only threat on this team to break one open, you know, on offense. Cam Sims, yeah, you can utilize him more as a big target in the game. But again, it's just so much in, you know, your quarterback position is limited right now. And I don't know how much Scott Turner is calling plays with a hand behind his back with this limited offense right now.
I mean, but even with Scott Turner's play calling, you just don't see the creativity there. Like, regardless of
I see creativity.
Yeah,
I don't really see creativity that, like, I see from other offensive coordinators around the league. Like, I see a lot of the same shit, the halfback screens, the little bubble wide receiver screens. He keeps doing these jet sweeps, but not giving it to the guy. and sometimes those sweeps are even happening with guys you're not even really scared of as a threat. Like, I'm not scared of Milline, or however you say his last name.
That's what. Yeah. That's literally what I was going to bring up too, guys. AJ, because there was two plays that I wasn't. So, like, the creativity part, I don't have an issue with Turner in that regard. But when you're talking about scheming people open or giving your best guys plays, there was two things that stood out to me on this game, and he may call it like a tendency breaker, but at the end of the day, like if you're breaking tendency, you can still break it with your best players. Like you're not doing yourself any favors. And what I mean by that, one play was a jet sweep in which he handed it off to Dax Mill. Dax Mill gets you like 2 yards when you need like 7. It was blocked up decently for you to get more than 7. He gets you 2. The last play was a 4th down call. The drive before the last drive that Washington had, or the second to last drive, where it was a 4th down call, 4th and 5, and you really run a jet out, I believe, if it wasn't just like a quick 5-yard out, I can't remember it, but you're running it to Dax Mill as opposed to trying to target 3 other guys like Bates, Sims, or McLaurin. In a situation where you really need to get this conversion, you go to Dax Mill. Now, again, it may be a tendency break in which you don't want to target your best guys. You want to throw the Philly defense off. But guess what? Who the hell cares in that moment? Like, dial up your best play, dial it up to your best playmaker or your second best playmaker, somebody that you know is going to make that play for you. And the two that comes in my head and that comes to all our heads are Cam Sims and Terry McLaurin. You don't eliminate them from the play. You make sure that you give them the opportunity to be the first or second read in the play, whatever it is that you call. And for you to give it to Dax Milne, I think you out tricked yourself or outplay called yourself, because it could have been really easier for you had you just given the guys that you trust to make plays them that opportunity.
Hey, another thing I'll just throw in there real quick, unrelated to, well, it was related to Washington in some regard, but the Bengals just clinched the playoff berth, bro.
Oh, they won.
Yeah,
they got a quarterback. They got an offense.
They just clinched a playoff berth. They don't have no offensive line, but they have weapons.
Yeah.
And that is what Washington is missing, is weapons. You don't have, like, Cincinnati has a running back. They have 3 wide receivers. They got a tight end. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they were able to acquire free agents like Trey Henderson and different guys and just play as a group. And this, I mean, going into year 3 under this tenure, like, Washington has to be the Bengals. Fuck Ron Rivera trying to be Buffalo Bills.
I agree.
Cincinnati Bengals.
I agree. And and that's what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, AJ. Like last couple of weeks, I've been saying, we've been built to, as a defensive football team, this is the strength of your team. And you look around the league, this is not really the winning formula in the NFL anymore. You look at the Bengals, you could turn around your whole fucking team in just a matter of 1 or 2 years when you get your quarterback and you also surround him with weapons. I mean, T. Higgins was already a weapon for the Bengals, but then, they drafted Barrow last year. They obviously, you look up, you get the number 1 pick with a guy like him coming out with the year he had at LSU. And then the very next year, you draft his former teammate, Jamar Chase, who's just an absolute beast in college. So, I mean, you automatically just solidified your offense with the weapons you have now, and they're going to be a dangerous team for the next few years because, like I said, they have their franchise quarterback and they also have weapons. Right now, all Washington has right now that's a consistent threat that bothers teams on a weekly basis is Terry McLaurin. And it's hard for Terry McLaurin to get off when Terry McLaurin doesn't have a Joe Burrow. Antonio Gibson is still really inconsistent at the running back position right now. And I think he's still trying to grow into the position, which, I mean, I don't know if he'll ever become a bona fide star in this league at the position, but that's something else that we really don't have at the running back position is a Joe Mixon right now. We don't have a T. Higgins. We don't have a Jamar Chase on the other side of Terry McLaurin. We don't even have a Boyd or a Zuma. So, that's the way I want to see this team start to build this team through the offense through the next couple of years. Hopefully you could identify your quarterback this year and then you just surround him with weapons. I mean, that's what Dallas did with Dak Prescott. You got Amari Cooper, you got Michael Gallup, you got CeeDee Lamb. I mean, you find your quarterback and then you get weapons. The defense, I just really want some opportunistic guys on that end of the ball. But the offense is where they're going to give you a chance to win every week if you have weapons, and this is how this league is going now.
So let's check in with the chat right quick. So Amani, hold on one second. Let me go ahead and adjust this right quick. Amani, who else was in there? I think Alex. Yeah, Alex. Let me go ahead and add AJ back one more time. There we go. Amani and Alex had some questions early on. I think it was a good conversation to have when we talked about this defense. Where are we at? Amani had asked one thing, and I guess it's a two-parter. Is it the player or is it the coaching scheme for the defense? Is what Amani asked. And then secondly, Alex from YouTube, what's going on, boss man, said, does this defense actually have talent? Because if you take out the that's true. He said if you take out the 2020 season, the defense hasn't really been good since 2009. But it's gonna be. I'll leave it at that because I was gonna give a comment on that one right there. But where are we at with this defense in terms of like the overall macro level thing? Because I know we talk about how the defense is underperformed and all these things, but if we talk about a talent standpoint, if we go across the board from all 11 projected starters, it's do we know? I mean, we know it from like the first 10 weeks. Technically, we know, but it's hard now with the injuries and COVID to really evaluate if this defense actually has talent. I'll leave it up to you all to answer. But where are we at? Is it scheme or is it talent or is it always that the influx of both playing a part in the underperformance?
Well,
I mean,
I'll go.
go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, Dunny definitely have talent. I mean, you look at the defensive line. We always talk about the defensive line. I think we have talent in the secondary too. I mean, we may not have like an elite secondary, but Kendall Fuller, William Jackson, like I said, Landon Collins, Bobby McCain, those guys can play in this league. Cam Curl, all of those guys can play in this league. Obviously, I think you only have one NFL caliber linebacker right now. Jamin Davis could change in year 2, but right now he's just not really an NFL starting linebacker. Cole Holcomb's the only NFL caliber linebacker you have right now, but you need more than that. Like we need at least 1 to 2 more linebackers that can play at this level, and we haven't had that for a couple of years now. Now that could be something that you could say that's holding the defense back. But again, I go back to the defensive coordinator. You know your personnel, and you know where your strength lies, but yet you don't really make adjustments in game, and you get gashed by the same plays over and over and over again. Like 2-3 weeks ago when we played Philly the first time this season, the running backs of Philly said they had never seen holes that big all season, running behind their line. And they've been having a pretty successful season running the football. So I think that's an indictment on Washington football's defense. And you have to look back at the coaching staff. Like I said, you have talent there. John Allen is playing at an all-pro level this season. Deron Payne is one of the most talented inside D linemen in the league. Matt Ioannidis has a reputation. Montez Sweat, he's been injured the last few weeks, but he hasn't had the season when he's played this season that you expect him to play. But he has the talent to be much better than you've seen from this season. Chase Young, before his injury, he looked like he regressed this season. And like I said, you just have to kind of go back and see, are these guys in cohesion with the coaching staff, and are they getting the most out of the talent they have? And I have to say right now they aren't.
AJ?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of the two. I think one of the major mistakes a lot of fan bases make is thinking that you need high-profile players or marquee draft picks in the first or second round to have a formidable defense. And in reality, you're going to have some of those first-round picks. You're going to have some of those free agent signings. But ultimately, you have to have a coaching staff and a scheme that fits well within what guys do best. You're supposed to be able to coach these guys up, whether they be the 3rd or 4th round pick or even your 1st round guy. Put them in positions to be able to learn, able to win or use what they do best. Like, there's no reason why Jamin Davis should have less than 10 snaps going into the end of the year. This is your 1st round pick, 19th overall. If he can't fucking take on blocks, let him blitz. You feel me? Use his 4.4 speed. Use his athleticism in some regard to help you get after the quarterback. Let him be a spy. You just want him to sit there and be a spy. Let him do that. But I feel like the defensive line is not a concern for me. I just think schematically that they could do more stunts. They could do more things on that front instead of just saying, hey, just beat the man in front of you. That's cool and all. But at some point, you got to switch it up. Linebacker corps, I don't think Cole Holcomb is a NFL starting linebacker. I just think he's on a team where he can sit here and collect his pay and not have the stress. But I really have not seen anything from him that tells me he should continue to be a starting linebacker for Washington. I know he has a great 4.40 at the combine, but you don't see him play fast at all. You actually see him think a lot on the field, which is the worst thing you could possibly want your linebacker to do. You want them to just react and go, and I don't really see that from him a lot of times. And damn sure in coverage, he's all over the place. He just He's just running
You said
around like a
Holcomb,
kid
right?
at a
Yeah,
I
he said
didn't know if you was talking
Holcomb.
about. Okay, I'm about to say
He
because
just
you can make
runs
that for
around.
Holcomb.
Yeah, he just runs around like a kid playing by himself at the playground in coverage. Honestly, the secondary, they have some things that they could work with. I just feel like they don't ask the secondary to do what they do best. Maybe you slide Fuller back into the slot. Maybe when Jackson comes back next year, you ask him to play more press man, what he's known for doing instead of playing off man coverage. Yeah, you should be able to do both. But the reality is some guys are better doing one thing than the other. And this team keeps asking guys to do things that they aren't comfortable with. Hence why Landon Collins even started balling more this year than any other year that he's been with Washington because they put him back in the box. They let him be that hybrid. They let him play in the Buffalo nickel, big nickel, whatever you want to call it. He was closer to the ball. He was able to create turnovers, whether it be interceptions, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, make big plays. And it's like it shouldn't take this long to understand what your guys do best. So
So
I
AJ, I got a
definitely think
question.
go ahead.
This for AJ and Dre. Listen, you you brought up the William Jackson note, right? And like press man, having him in man coverage, and saying that these defensive backs aren't being put in position to do what they do best. My thing is Fuller is good in zone. Jackson is good in man. Darby, he was really good up front too, and press coverage as well. I, for the life of me, just don't know if you know these issues or limitations exist with a certain player, especially a free agent player versus the person that actually looked decent in your scheme. I'm not now. Let me clarify because I just realized where it could go. I'm not saying Darby should have been overpaid if he was seeking a certain type of money, or you should have kept him over William Jackson. But my thing is, if you're going to go for a player like William Jackson, why force him into your scheme versus playing that man? But you have two different corners on the same team in Washington that are good at opposite things. Like you put yourself in that situation, how are you going to get yourself out given that you just gave William Jackson X amount of money for X amount of years and Kendall Fuller's going to be here? He has one more year in his contract, I believe. I don't know. Like I think it's probably 1 year, but you're dealing with this again next year, and you're going to sit here and try and figure out again next year how are you going to make this back end play together and play more sound. Now, William Jackson did have a period in which he looked good for consecutive weeks at a time, post bye week, but how consistent can it be from weeks 1 through 18? I don't know, but I just don't understand why, as a front office or Ron Rivera in the offseason, you decided to go after these guys knowing that you probably was going to run into this issue when the regular season came about.
Man, I think it's just like one of those situations where it's like, when you got your girl, you know what you got, but you don't know what this chick on the outside you keep following and liking her pictures on Instagram, what she about. So you get interested and you might end up shooting your shot. And personally knowing Ronald Darby, he wanted to stay here. He's from the area. Um, Family is fans. He grew up a Darryl Green fan. It's been his dream to always play for Washington. You probably could have got a little bit of a discount. I mean, even for the number that he did sign for, which is like around $8 million a year, like you could have kept him in the fold. But unfortunately, Ron Rivera and them, they decided to go elsewhere and pay much more for a guy that they aren't even using what he's done best in the league with Cincinnati. Yeah, it's just and that's where like a lot of our conversations gets me back to the point where like, why am I trusting Ron Rivera and this staff to help put this team together? Like it's done. Like I'm quite sure that it's done. Like I've seen enough personnel moves. I've seen enough decisions. Even just look at the linebacker court for the year, bro. Like you decided to keep John Bostic, then you also drafted Jamin Davis, 19th overall. But not once have you thought to bring in a veteran presence with actually like some games under their belt and have been in like locker rooms and different things, have been like maybe the guy in the past. Like you could have brought.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
AJ got disconnected again. But yeah, let's go ahead and
Yeah, I guess I'll chime in on the cornerbacks. Something I think we are missing too. I don't know. I don't know if we are actually missing this, but a player that was supposed to be a part of this rotation, Benjamin St. Juste, he's been out pretty much all year. I think he had a concussion all year. So that's another player you want to see what he can bring next year because they really liked him. And I thought for the few the few games we did see him in, he showed some solid potential. But that's a good question as far as are we getting the most scheme wise out of these guys like a William Jackson who is known for press man in Cincinnati and Kendall Fuller who's mostly a zone guy. But I thought William Jackson had an up and down season. I mean, I thought early on in the season, he looked bad, and it probably was him getting adjusted to the scheme. This was something completely different for him. But later on, before he got hurt, I thought he started to look a lot better. I mean, he started to make a little bit more plays on the ball, and he started to play better. So maybe next year you'll see that. So it's going to be intriguing. I think we got Kendall for 2 more years. I know we signed him for 4 years when we initially signed him. So we'll have Kendall, hopefully a healthy Benjamin St. Juste going into next season, and also William Jackson. So, I mean, I think you're okay with those 3 guys at cornerback if you think that you can get the maximized potential out of Chase Young and Montez Sweat, who you have under contract for next season. You got John Allen back next year, but again, the key with this defense is going to be how do you improve that linebacker group? I mean, I don't know who's out there in free agency right now. I haven't really looked, but that's really a group that you have to upgrade. And I don't know how easily you'll be able to upgrade it because right now the priority is quarterback position and offense. We have to add a lot on offense right now, but we still need linebackers on this team. So that's going to help everything. I think once you get linebackers, it helps the back end as well. But you have enough talent back there in the secondary is my point with guys like Kendall Fuller and William Jackson. But like I said, I definitely want to see the potential of Ben St. Juste if he's ever healthy.
Yeah, and my bad, I got cut off there, but yeah, I was kind of just alluding to the fact that this team hasn't went and tried to acquire even a veteran linebacker to bring in here to help, with Jamin Davis in the room or on the field. Like Dre was saying with the secondary, they should be okay in the secondary, but it's kind of disappointing. Like one of Ron Rivera's prized things I guess he could lean on with his tenureship in Carolina was the secondary was always on point. They were able to take guys from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round and turn them into solid players on the outside. Or, you have James Bradbury. I think he was probably like a 5th or 6th round pick for Carolina. You got Josh Norman. You got the Trey Bostons and things of that nature. You have guys that they develop in the secondary position, at least with Carolina. We have not really seen that here yet. I think with Ben, I think they just have to use his attributes to best of their abilities, a press man corner, but he also can play different positions on the field. And unfortunately, the concussion has limited him from being able to play. But at the end of the day, I just feel like linebacker position is not really many linebackers available. A lot of the guys that are available are pass rushers. And maybe, I don't know, maybe you get aggressive this free agency and offseason, and maybe you call a couple teams and see, hey, what's up with Bobby Wagner? We'll take on that contract. Like, what's up with, so-and-so linebacker at different teams. But ultimately, I think the most important thing is they need to get this coaching staff better and probably bring in a younger nucleus of guys that can rally the team and help understand them. Because Jack Del Rio, I'm sorry, but you ain't cutting it, bro.
I think one of the things that y'all mentioned, well, put it this way, I'm willing to do a mulligan for the secondary. Like I'm willing to do that, right? But that front 7, you can't afford to have this go weary or awry in year 3. Now, the first year of Washington, things looked good when you were playing inferior opponents. They were backups, injuries, all those things. You looked good. Year 2, you saw shades of year 1 when you were playing healthier opponents who were presumably better their season. Like, it didn't matter who you were playing at this point. My thing is, Again, secondary willing to do a mulligan because if you're not getting pressure up front, if your linebackers aren't really good in coverage, and I was going to bring up the Cole Holcomb point, AJ, because when you spoke on Cole Holcomb, I don't think that he's a bad player, but I don't know how good he is just because his name pops on this defense. I don't know how good he is just yet. When you have a linebacker who's as fast as him, who is around the ball a lot, you're going to see him flash a lot. But how good is he really? Like, you could have a Mason Foster who has 9-10 tackles a game. Does that mean he was really good? I don't think he was really good. But to that point, Cole Holcomb, he can be a piece for this defense, but he shouldn't be in the middle. He shouldn't be calling plays. He should be a person opposite of Jamin Davis, Weak, and Sam, however they want to put that on the field. That's how it should be. But the edge rushers, I think what you saw today, as I pointed out in the beginning, Dre and AJ, how they were double teaming the interior defensive line, and none of the edge rushers were making plays. It kind of shows you how underdeveloped you are from a backup standpoint. Montez Sweat wasn't playing, Chase Young wasn't playing, but you did have Bradley King, Hill, and all those other folks on the edge rushers who were backups that Washington invested in, whether it was the draft or signing them as free agents, younger guys, and they weren't making plays either. So you kind of have to take that into account. If you're going to move forward with trying to improve this defensive line, you have to make sure the younger guys that you invested in are somebody who becomes key players down the road. Because if you don't have any depth, Chase Young and Montez Sweat, if they can't do it by themselves, you're repeating every single thing that happened in 2021 all over again in 2022. And that would be a disaster for any defensive coordinator that's taking over or that's calling players for Washington. If you can't get some production from those edge rushers, you're shit out of luck. And if those linebackers don't step up, or if you can't find that middle linebacker to make plays and be a playmaker for you all, shit out of luck.
Or how about just getting some veterans that can play behind these guys or on the team in those rooms? Like Washington defensive end wise, they have no veteran defensive end, and there's many of them on the street looking for jobs. There's so many nuances of the game that these guys could teach guys like Montez Sweat, Chase Young, whether it be hand movement, different moves, or different ways to set. But it's like, I don't know, for whatever reason, when Ron first came here, he brought in Thomas Davis to the locker room. But outside of that, you haven't seen any other guys come here and try to be even teachers, like even if they can't produce on the field, at least they can help in the meeting room.
Yeah. Okay. We know the conversation quarterback never stops. So we won't worry about that. We'll just close out on the offensive line, actually. Taylor Heineke, I think I said he was sacked 3 times. And I believe since the losing streak started, I don't know how many sacks. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would just say this. The pressure that Washington surrendered from the offensive line and also from the quarterback position itself, whether it's from indecisiveness or just holding the ball too long or just players up front getting beat, it's been incredible to see how much pressure has been accumulated over the course of these 4 games for Washington. My thing is, and I'm going to ask you all, and I guess this will be the last thing, and everybody in the chat too, put your thinking hats on for this one. We said for a long time this year that the offensive line has been a sneaky part of this offense. And while they were performing well, it was hard to disagree then. How certain are we? Let's put it this way: are we standing by that statement that the offensive line is a sneaky part of this offense, given the fact that they've faltered? Actually, to be honest with you, since the Raiders game too, they were giving up tons of pressure against the Raiders as well. So we're talking about 5 games, not just 4. So I'll hand that to you all. Are we standing by the offensive line as an underrated part of this team statement moving forward? If you ask me, I think 5 weeks in a row kind of changes my mind. Just leave it at that. 5 weeks in a row changes my mind, especially when you're going up against top tier edge rushers and interior linemen. It kind of showcases that they still need more work.
I guess I'll go ahead and answer that first. I don't think my mind has really changed. And I think it all went downhill when Chase Roullier got hurt. He calls a lot of the
That's valid.
protections when he's in the game. I think he's one of the best centers in the NFL. We paid him, we rewarded him last year with a contract extension. And not only he got hurt, you went down like 2 or 3 other centers after him, and you ended up on Keith Ishmael, a guy you cut on cut day this year, and you had to bring him in. He had to start the last few games. But not just him. Scherf, he misses his annual 4 to 5 games a year. And he just missed them in his last stretch or whatever. Eric Flowers, he's just went on the COVID list. So, I mean, this is a unit that for the last 4 or 5 games, they haven't been collectively healthy as a unit. Sam Cosmi.
You going back that far?
Yeah, I may even go back that far, but just because Sam Cosmi had been out for a while. He was on IR, but he was playing well before his hip injury. And then you had to put Cornelius Lucas, who I think he got hurt as well. He ended up getting hurt, or he got on COVID, and that was your backup tackle after him. So now you're starting Sadiq Charles, a guy who he's pretty much guard tackle. So, I mean, you were just playing. You were bringing up practice squad guys just to fill the entire OL unit. So I'm not gonna. I don't think my opinion has changed too much on them. I think they have guys. I think if you go into next season, if you re-sign Charles Leno, which I would consider a priority this offseason, I will re-sign him. Of course, you have Eric Flowers, Chase Roullier. You'll get him back next year. Brandon Scherf, I'll let him walk because you just don't want to pay a guard that much that can't give you 16 to 17 games a season healthy. But I think you have a Wes Schweitzer, a guy who fills in admirably for Brandon Scherf whenever he doesn't play. And Sam Cosmi, I think he is going to be a pretty good tackle in this league. So I'm okay with the offensive line going forward.
So there's one thing before AJ goes. The reason why I had brought that up, and I guess so. I would say Dre brings very valid points, right? You're dealing with backups and even practice squad guys. I think my thing is, and the reason why I asked you if you want to go that far back is because we had conversations while this offensive line was still banged up because they were playing well. And that's kind of where I feel like it was a valid question to ask. But when you play against the top tier guys, I guess maybe what's even more fair of a response is saying when you play against the top tier guys, you need your top tier guys as well. So I think that's probably the better thing to say. But maybe the depth isn't as good as we thought. I think that's probably one thing to take into consideration versus anything else. But go ahead, AJ.
I was just gonna say, I mean, definitely with this offensive line, I'm not paying or tagging Brandon Scherf ever again. There's no need to do that. You can definitely allocate those funds somewhere else. I mean, like I said, you need playmakers, and he's not a playmaker guard. He's not Quentin Nelson. We need to stop acting like that. I think he really just gets voted into the Pro Bowl because he already has a couple under his belt. So people just keep voting him back in. But, I mean, there's nothing elite about him aside from even the fact that he misses a lot of games every year. Overall, I really don't know what direction they're going with the offensive line. I like Eric Flowers at guard still. Definitely don't know what's happening with center. The guys that they have behind the starter and switcher. Or is Switzer the starter? Or is it
well, he got hurt
too. And Schweitzer, I think, is a guard. I want to say he's a guard.
Okay.
Yeah, Schweitzer's a guard.
They all suck. They all suck.
They
Anyway. At the end of the day, even the guys that's backing them up just aren't adequate enough. I think they played decent during the season, but like you guys said, when they face elite talent, like you could definitely see that these guys are backups. Like you really don't see anything formidable about them, and you're hoping to piece things together. But once again, it goes back to Ron Rivera's personnel decisions. I feel like he just created a lot of holes that he didn't need to from the time that he got in here. We still have Trent Williams going to Pro Bowls with a new team in San Fran. Could have tried to really resolve that situation. Instead, he traded Trent for a third and a fifth. Then this season, as we get closer to the kickoff of the regular season, he releases Morgan Moses out of nowhere. Like to bring in journeymen in Cornelius Lucas and Charles Leno, in my opinion, like just another guy. It's a lot of holes on this team, and I don't know how Ron and the staff can fix them going into year 3, because there will not be a year 4. I really wish we weren't even talking about a year 3 being possible, but he has a lot of holes that they have not been able to shore up since he's been here. He's actually created more. And you also now will have a whole third down running back. J.D. McKissick is a free agent. What are you going to do there?
Sign. We need to get him back.
Yeah, I would resign him.
We need to get him back. It's plain and simple.
Yeah,
Don't let that man go
we
nowhere.
would re-sign him. We would re-sign him. But if you're J.D. McKissick, do you really want to stay here? Because I
Why
feel
not?
like I feel like
Why not?
But
Hey.
because I feel like J.D. McKissick could be an actual starting running back. Like, I don't think he should be locked in as a third down running back. I think he's the best running back on the team, actually. Like, Antonio Gibson's cool, but I think.
But does he have the body type to be an every down back? I don't know if he has the body type to be in it. You got to think. You got to factor in injuries and when you're talking about a J.D. McKissick being an every down back, and I think we play him in a perfect role. He gets featured here a lot. I mean, he's the quarterback security blanket. You put him in on third downs, and I mean, I think he gets the adequate amount of carries he's supposed to get. I mean, you want to keep his body type up. It's like the same conversation we used to have about Chris Thompson a couple years ago. Like, he was a guy who always talent-wise flashed as a really good back, but it was a guy you didn't want to play every down because you knew he couldn't last that long, if you were to give him the rock so many times in a game.
But I don't think McKissick has had any injury issues while being here. It's just been concussion-related recently. That's it.
And neck. He had a neck injury.
The neck one.
Okay.
So JD he's only played in 11 games. And 11 out of 16 so far. Obviously, he's done for the year. And out of even with 11 games being played, McKissick has 43 receptions on the season. That's second most behind Terry.
He had 80 last year, didn't he? About
80. 80 last year, and he has 48 carries on the year as well. So in terms of starter, I don't know, but in terms of his role, like, he is a person who gets used a lot. He gets featured a lot. Now, I don't agree with the amount of carries that he gets sometimes, because sometimes you'll see him with just like 2 or 3 carries on a game, and that's not conducive to winning at all with a guy like JD, because he's the perfect switch up back from Antonio Gibson, but he gets seen a lot. And when we talk about if he wants to be here, there are a ton of options, obviously, for players like him, but at the end of the day, a lot of people, now I'm not saying this is for those who are listening and watching, I'm not saying this will be Washington in 2023, but put it this way, when you make decisions from a player standpoint, a lot of players re-sign with sorry teams. Now, again, I'm not saying Washington is going to be trash in 2023. We'll let 2022. We'll let that resolve itself as the days and weeks move along. But heading into a new year, there is nothing to stop J.D. McKissick if they pay him well. It's going to be the same thing with Terry. Like, we had that discussion. There will be nothing to stop him from staying in Washington if the money looks good to him. Obviously, if he wants other factors, like you want to see a concerted effort in pursuing a quarterback, that's one thing, and that's something that we can't see right now. But in terms of the money thing, if he gets paid well, it is what it is. He'll be back. All right. So, Merle, I did see you call in. We about to close out. But definitely, obviously, as always, you can call in if you happen to be around earlier in the show. We're about to close out of here, fellas. Schedule wise, I know we didn't do the last 2 Thursdays, but we will be back this week. Chopper Die will be back, so we'll be here Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week. Same thing for next week as well. Even though next week will be the end of the season for us, but yeah, it is what it is. Stay tuned for updates. I'll let you all know as the week moves along and the episodes move along. With that being said, Dre, AJ, y'all boys be safe. Enjoy the rest of these games, man. I'm about to tune into this Dallas Cowboys Cardinals game, man, and see what these boys from the desert hitting on in whatever that in Arlington. I don't know what the name of the stadium is, but right, whatever peace. It is. Right. Y'all boys be safe, man, and everybody watching. Appreciate y'all for watching, comments, all that good stuff. Y'all enjoy y'all day too. Peace.
Cool.
All right.